All right, welcome to another edition of the Big Blue Report featuring that guy, the two-time Super Bowl champion and former defensive captain of the New York Football Giants and Giants legend and one of the best food truck owners in the business, Jonathan Casillas. As always, the professor, Ryan Darlington. I am Randy Zellea from backsportspage.com. And, of course, we have a special guest this week. Should we call him the voice of the New York Giants? Because he's at every game hyping him up. He's at
you know what his name is? His name is Him C. That is Him C.
Yeah, Bob Pop was the voice of the Giants.
Right.
I was like, I'm the Him C of the Giants.
You're the Him C?
He wears way too many hats to be limited to just the voice. You know what I mean?
It's fun too. It's fun. All of it's fun, really.
You can call him any way you want, but you can call the man of the voice. His name is Brandon London, and he is here on the Big Blue Report talking Big Blue with us. Before we get started, this episode of the Big Blue Report is brought to you by NFLShop.com, powered by Fanatics. Show your love for the New York Football Giants and support us by clicking the link in the show description and placing your order today. Whether you need gear for the 2024 season or want to rep Big Blue all year round, NFLShop.com has you covered. Head to the description below, click on the link, and get all your Giants gear. Go Big Blue. All right, boys, we are in the preseason. We got our first game under our belt as far as the Giants were concerned. We're going to jump into this a little bit. Quite a few takeaways between the Drew Lock injury, then on Sunday, obviously the Neighbors sprained ankle. But before we really jump into all that, Brandon, for those who do not know Brandon is very involved in so many different projects. I mean, he's always around with the New York Football Giants. Always a pleasure to see him when I'm there, and even more of a pleasure to have him on the show. Brandon, we'll start with you. What have you seen so far from the 2024 New York Football Giants?
I've seen an offense that is not afraid to dial it up and push the ball down the field. And you see receivers who are winning a lot more 50-50 balls down the field. And that's something that's very encouraging, especially when you're talking about how the offense and them going after a weapon in Malik Neighbors and them being able to, right now with a guy like Turbo Miller and hopefully Tyrone Tracy Jr. can get back. And then you look at what Eric Gray put on tape with the big run. So you're seeing explosive plays, chunk plays, and not only in practice, but joint practices and preseason games. So it's a good thing offensively. Defensively, on the other hand, you wonder if the secondary is going to hold up as is. You look at how heavy they are in terms of reliance on pass rush to get there. But what about that team that's offensive line can match up with the pass rush and neutralize it? Are the defensive backs that are on this roster right now able to defend and at some points take away the 50-50 ball down the field? That's what I believe the biggest question marks are going on so far. But, I mean, so far, a couple weeks of training camp and one preseason game under their belt. I mean, they're taking steps, a stepping stone. So they're trending in the right direction. Who knows how far or how high their ceiling is in their cap. But at the same time, practice to practice, you can see not only players, but units and team getting better.
Ryan, I go right ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what I've loved to see, and Brandon, it was to your point exactly, we're starting to gel as a team, and we're starting to see units play together, right? I was watching, in particular, the offensive line. It was a wet night, right? The game that we played against the Lions, and honestly, in those kinds of sloppy battles, what happens in the trenches is oftentimes what makes the difference in the game. And so seeing, even though it wasn't necessarily our initial starters being in there for the whole time, we saw capable backups, which is not something that we have seen in the past. And our second and third string was better than their second and third string. And those things are always kind of encouraging to me. I think I really loved seeing the grit, and not just in the game itself. This is something that we were talking about a lot last year, of the team just kind of missing that fire, missing that passion, missing that drive to go out and get it. And I love to see, we got to do it within reason, but I love to see the fights, man. I love to see the guys fired up and getting after each other and sticking up for one another, and maybe not throwing haymakers as much as
you like it till Malik Neighbors throws a haymaker and hits his hand and he's out for a couple weeks. Like
Yeah.
they get your work in. It's a business trip. Like just go get your work in. And
I
then
hear you.
like back to the offensive line and how they were able to kind of the 2 and 3 offensive line. JC, you know how much of a luxury that is in the preseason because you're able to evaluate quarterbacks, running backs, because it's just not the line collapsing every single play in a preseason game, So, I mean, the fact that offensive, the second and third units were able to kind of work together. I know everything was vanilla, but at least they got vanilla stuff and you're able to evaluate. And that's the biggest part of the preseason.
And I'll follow up with the evaluation for me was this is a tough physical football team that they're building here. I think last year the Giants got pushed around, especially, with the two other teams in the division. Not the second game versus the Eagles. That wasn't the same team as the Eagles prior to that. But, the Giants got pushed around last year. The Giants got pushed around by the Lions last year in practice up in Detroit. I wasn't there, but I heard it. I was there for those 2 days. They were not backing down. They were initiating a lot of those scuffles that they got into. And look, the Lions, they're one of those teams out. They're a physical team, but led by their physical offense with their offensive line, who's top of the league. Two really, really dynamic and good running backs, and an all-pro receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Drew Phillips, a rookie for the Giants, was not backing down from him, and he was up in his face the whole time. And I just felt like that carried over to the game.
But there's being physical and then there's haymakers. Like, come on, God, we all clocked in. We got our lunch pails and our hard hats with the Guardian caps on it. Like we all clocking in. Let's just go to work, get some work in, because in the second practice, there's in the red zone towards the end, Amon-Ra St. Brown caught one. Jason Pinnock was there. It looked like it could have been a huge contact. Like looking at that right there in a game, Amon-Ra St. Brown could have scored. He's been shown to come bounce off of that hit and then get in the end zone in a big manner. So you're glad that Jay Penny like kind of tagged off and practiced the way he wanted to practice. And in a game that's going to be a high speed collision. But that's one thing. But anything when this dude's just like Buddy that laid off on Eric Gray and 7-on-7. Hit him. You saw the video. Hit him, and then they get the one-on-one.
I saw it live. I saw it live.
And then we got to see it live in the game. You get the one-on-one. Eric Gray put the stinky leg on him.
Oh, forget it! Juked him out of his shorts.
Like from Family Guy. Touching the candy. And took off. So it's like, bro, just at the end of the day, it's football, fellas. Like it's football. We play football for a living. This is our work. Let's go to work. Get 1%. Heck, it's a joint practice. Get 1.5% better on a day. And then just go into the preseason game going about it.
B, you know what I noticed too? Like those 2 days of the Lions practices that were just like, I think it was like 15 or something overall, like, skirmishes between the two teams. It was a lot of like the new guys, whether they were rookies or Illuminor. He was in there a lot, and I just think that's, and I'll hate to use analogy, but this is the only one I know. You show up to the prison, you got to go ahead and punch the biggest, baddest guy in the face and let him know you here. Like, I'm arrived here. I ain't no punk. And I think that's what they were trying to do. You know what I'm saying? And look, I don't want nobody to get hurt.
Right.
But what I do want to see is something.
If they do, that's part of punching the biggest dude in the prison. Somebody gonna get hurt. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
but what I wanted to see, B, which I saw was, all right, we don't want to fight, right? That's not something we want to do in a game, in a real live game. That's going to cost you money, possibly a game or two, depending on what happens, or you can get hurt. But you don't choose to when your brother fights or not. You know what I'm saying? But you choose to fight with your brother when he's in a fight. You know what I mean? And that was a thing that I feel like I didn't really see a lot of in 2023. I feel like guys were bringing like literal fights to our team and maybe hitting Daniel Jones a little bit late or on the borderline, on the fringe. And I didn't really see guys running to fight with him. And I feel like that's what we saw. And leaving that booth right after the game, I believe, like right after the game, one of the coaches for Detroit, who I had dinner with the night prior, he walked out, he was shaking his head. He said, "Man, y'all whooped our ass." And I was like, "Yeah, we did." Like, yeah, because
So my thing is, so again, it's like, all right, like I get the like the physicality and all that part about it, going at it day one and all. But then after Dan Campbell and Brian Dable both said that they were told both teams to kind of back down, the second day it got crazy as well. I look at it from the standpoint, you've lost the game because somebody's done something stupid at the wrong time because of the heat of the moment.
Yep.
So that's one of those things where it's like, you look at that moment in terms of, and again, if it was them sticking up for people throughout the second day, that's one thing. But if it was another thing that after hearing Brian Dable's message or Campbell's message, and you still like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna fight, so I'm gonna do something, or I'm still going, they're gonna see me. That's just he gonna be that guy that's gonna mess it up at the time he's supposed to mess it up.
Success along those lines happens on the razor's edge, right? Because you want to give just enough fight to make yourself competitive and to know let your teammates know that you got their backs and you're ready to fight for what you got. But it's super easy to go over the line, super easy to throw that punch that's going to break your hand and have you out for 4 games, right?
And
there's an element of maturity, right? And so sometimes that knowing where that line is comes with playing the game for a while and being able to control it. When you saw it during Hard Knocks when Dable was talking with Malik Neighbors, he's a straight up dog, right? And he wanted that, right? He knows that kind of energy, that kind of spirit, that kind of guy that hates losing more than he loves winning, right? That's the guy that's gonna fight. But the flip side of that is that's the guy that's going to get into fights if you don't kind of put him on that razor's edge and show him and have him learn where to pull it back and where to be on that edge.
And 2 observations with that, too. If you remember correctly, back when Odell Beckham was here with the fighting with Josh Norman, it became such a big thing. JC, you were on the field for that one. You were here for that. That could ended up costing OBJ a game, and all the nonsense that got with it. But what I thought was more interesting, it was Daniel getting right in there. If Daniel's considered the leader of this team, he's jumping right in the middle of the fray to get in there with it. It sets the tone for the rest of the team, and that's what's most important. Like JC, you said it best. Last year, after that first game against Dallas, Daniel was grabbing his shoulder from section 324. That's what that's what it was. Daniel felt like he was fighting alone last season in that opening game. So the fact that the team looks more united this season going into the regular season, and look, we said this during 2022, sometimes you also have to have luck and have some breaks go your way. Not that we're looking past Minnesota, but you look what Minnesota's going through as we're heading into week 1. They're down their quarterback. So sometimes the ball needs to bounce your way sometimes, and it's just as good to be lucky sometimes than it is good in that sense.
Yeah, y'all were talking about playing on the edge. I have a great quote from Greg Williams, crazy ass. He used to say, live on the edge, play on the edge, but never hurt the team. So that's like, get physical, and especially in games, like you don't want to get that 15-yard penalty that can, drastically hurt your team, especially in critical times in situations in the game. But you do want to have that edge about you. You do want to be, close to almost hitting the guy late. When I say that, it's like, because you want to make sure they're down. You know what I mean? Like little stuff like that. That's a mindset and that's a culture that these guys are going to play until the end of the whistle, and then they're going to keep fighting and they're going to stay here for 4 or 5 quarters or however long it takes. And that mentality, I think Dayball, from what they saw last year on film, because, what the coaches do, and I know they kind of drive themselves crazy with it, like they overanalyze what they've done. They not over scout, but they kind of look at self-scout themselves, but they do it so critically during the offseason. And I think one thing that they saw was the Giants were getting out physical a lot last year. So now, not only did they handle that, or they try to address it and handle it in the draft, they bring in Burns, put in other pieces that can fit their mentality and that culture that I hope it does show up because look, at the end of the day, we're in New Jersey, New York area. This is our, blue collar workers, man. People out here working hard, busting their butt, whatever, flipping burgers, whatever they're doing. Pun on that one.
Yeah.
Like they're out there grinding and working, and like they wanted that team to represent them. And the Giants always been that. When B. London was here, the Giants was that. The 2016 year we went to the playoffs. We were that. We were a physical team led by the defense, led by the legendary defensive line. And this defense and this team is kind of shaping up to kind of have that type of similarities that we've known from successful teams throughout the years with the Giants.
Brandon, I have to ask this question too. From the team that you were on with the Giants, you had some guys who were fiery. There was the Antonio Pierces, there was the Brandon Jacobs, there was those types of guys. Do you have any of those stories that you saw during those practice times with those type of fiery guys and those types of personalities?
Well, there really wasn't that many fights that broke out 2007. Like again, it was a thing where guys were professionals. Guys wanted to be about their business. That was a lot of veterans on that team compared to this young team, to where you're going to have rookies and young guys be your stars. I mean, you still had that with the draft class that I had with guys like Aaron Ross playing a lot, Steve Smith with the contribution that he made, Kevin Boss, Craig Dahl, undrafted, Mike Matthews. You look at those guys, Ahmad Bradshaw, Mike Johnson. Look at the contribution that those guys made. But at the end of the day, yeah, you had the Brandon Jacobs, the Antonio Pierces, Richie Soyberts. It was just a list. It didn't have to be a particular captain. It was units of guys, Kavika Mitchell, Reggie Torber, like all those guys, Dominic Hickson, like just stand up guys. Even if you weren't a guy that was even listed on the first tier as being a captain or second team as being like an old OG, I'd say the third tier was just guys that just carried themselves with the championship type aura. And it was like, that guy, he gets it. He looks like he gets it. So let me gravitate towards him, a little bit, because you want to be surrounded by people, the different tiers of just, I guess you could call it greatness. So, I mean, again, we're still super early right now, not only in the preseason, but the overall season as a whole. But they are starting to kind of like try and put some sort of definition within the clay mold in terms of putting together a roster, not a finished product, but at least a roster.
I did a little bit of research on Sunday when I was there, and I looked at the roster. There's only 7 remaining Giants left from the 2021 season. JC, we on this show have talked about when the new regime comes in, they flush. You're down to 7 players left from the Gettleman era. Okay, so this is now Joe
Which
Shane,
was not that long ago.
Which is not that long ago at all. So, we talked about the turnover of a roster. So now this is Joe Shane and Brian Dable's team. Only 7 guys left from the Gettleman era. How do you look at this roster? And Brandon, feel free to jump in for being as close as you guys have been. Looking at this team from when these guys have gotten here to where it is now, do we see progress?
Well, I mean, I think we saw last year there was a step back, and in terms of overall performance, injuries hampered the Giants very early. With major players being out for some of the guys, majority of the year. Went through 3 quarterbacks last year, losing the best offensive player, Andrew Thomas, for a significant period of time, and having injuries among the offensive line. It was a lot of things that I think caused the Giants to step back. There is no way, I think, right now to analyze have they taken a step forward from last year, because we haven't seen them around live bullets quite yet. But like I said, the offseason is very crucial and important. That's why the Hard Knocks are there with the Giants, because they want to show the fans what actually goes down during the offseason, because it is a crucial and critical time for the development of a team. And the Giants, I feel like they did everything they could to, look, Daniel Jones is the quarterback for the New York Football Giants. The way football is played in 2024 now, it's no longer you got to have that bell cow running back and he has to be able to touch the ball 30 times. You have to have a capable quarterback that can win you games, and then also you have to have a defense to affect the other team's quarterback on a consistent basis, especially situationally. And the Giants, I felt like they built that, improving the offensive line by bringing in Runyon and Luminor and other pieces that they got, and they got their young weapon. These LSU receivers. Brandon, you tell me what's going on in the water down in Louisiana, down in Baton Rouge, because these dudes are coming in ready to go, looking like year 2, 3. And this kid Neighbors, he's no short of Justin Jefferson or Odell when they was at, I want to say their prime because he hasn't proven it quite yet. But man, it's easy to see a playmaker in training camp. It's easy to see that.
Yeah, Bama, Ohio State, and LSU, man, 3 receiver factories that just kind of pump them out. And then I'll put USC in that second tier because USC puts some receivers out as well. But yeah, man, he's looked special. But again, it's one of those things where you kind of want to hold off and reserve judgment because yeah, it is training camp, but there's questions surrounding that offensive line. What are they going to gel to be, and especially early? Like if they can hold up early, give Daniel Jones some sort of confidence and time early, then they're able to do, they don't have to necessarily force feed a Neighbors. You can easily get the ball to him in rhythm and get him going and get his confidence going early. I think within the first 5 games, he'll easily have maybe 1 to 2 10-target games at least, and that's early. But I want to see what they do in terms of using what they have in the receiving room as a whole.
Yeah.
I think Theo Johnson, if you look at him, Baby Gronk looks like he could be something with the way that he moves, catches, plucks, and I want to see if he has a little wiggle on him. If he starts making guys miss, if he starts plucking and making that first guy miss to getting a little extra yak, that's when you can that's when you know you're gonna have something on Theo Johnson. But when I talk about the receiver core, imagine being able to use the speed and have on the same time on the same field Neighbors, Hyatt, Slayton, Robinson, with the running back there, or you go 5 wide and you put a Hodgins in there. Or what I really liked was putting in a Tyrone, but he got injured. Tyrone Tracy Jr., a running back, or maybe even Turbo Miller now, a running back where if it is that 4 wide fifth running back, I mean that fifth playmaker being a running back, running back that could do something in space, catch the ball and do something in space. Because since it's 5 wide, you're depending on catching everybody being in their spot, space, and being able to do something with it after. To go from that to regular 21 personnel to go regular 12 personnel. Let's see. I want to see the Giants like how, or I mean 11. I want to see how Dable with him taking over the reins, like how can he identify playmakers and get playmakers going in different times and different spots to really identify what he has as a whole and collectively. So then by week 4, 5, 6, different guys are getting the ball early and then if someone's getting shut down or a defense is kind of leaning towards 1 to 2 other guys, then you already have it built in to where you can now counter going heavy with other matchups. So it's a wait and see thing, but you want to see guys catch the ball. And if you catch it, who cares if you get yak sometimes, because that catch, it was just enough, because wherever yardage you get is just enough. But then, JC, as you know, a game of momentum, you catch it and then someone wiggle, you give a little wiggle, that's where dreams and big plays are made. So we'll see how it goes.
Thanks.
Is Hodgins the odd man out in that receiver room?
Seems to me to be at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, unless unless he's able to come up with something a la Eric Gray, because I mean, we were saying the same thing about Gray before the game. And so then he comes up with a 2-touchdown performance, right? If we see something special from him, he'll put his name back into the mix. But I mean, it seems like there's enough people that are kind of coming up through the ranks to prove that they deserve that last spot.
But look at how everything, the roster construct is now, where you can put a guy like that on your practice squad.
Yeah, right.
And then
right. He won't last on the practice squad. I don't think he'll clear waivers.
No, I don't think so.
Nah. I think maybe for the first couple weeks, because a lot of teams already know what they have in terms of bringing in the guy. So you would have to bring him in on your immediate 53. But I think, I mean, it would be a luxury to have him on the practice squad if he needed to come up. But I think, like this, I get that mention, that speed. If you can use that speed and then what Wandale kind of offers, being a little jet sweep guy and all at the same time, and that offensive line hold up, then you might have something when it comes to not flashy playmaker, but a guy, JC, that can get you 13 to 18. That's just, if you get a bunch of guys that can get you at least that, then that right there within itself, and then having the neighbors who can hit you for 50, 60, that right there within itself could be a good enough offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also too, you know, neighbors is going to be drawing a lot of attention, which is going to open a lot of things up for Jalen Hyatt.
But let me stop you right there real quick, Randy, because it's not Neighbors, because Neighbors is going to do what he does, because we've seen it, like the quick glances that we've seen from him, what we've seen from him in college, where he got drafted at. You know, he might be probably the biggest playmaker in the draft this past year. He might be that guy, but it doesn't matter if he don't get targets, because Jalen Hyatt came in last year and he was the biggest deep threat in all of NCAA, and he got how many targets on the year? 20, 30, 25?
Yeah.
And how many shots was downfield? So the reason why I stopped you, because it's really the Daniel Jones make or break year.
Yeah.
And there's a fear factor that when the quarterback will take shots down the field for a defense, and honestly, they don't even have to complete them. They just have to be able to take those shots. And I'm gonna look back at my safety and be like, hey, you better make sure you're back there.
Yeah.
I think we can handle the run up here with 7, maybe even 6. But what we can't do is give up a 30, 40-yard bomb. And as a defense, if you're not worried about that, that's what I think it made it, I wouldn't say so easy to play against the Giants, but made it almost so simple to play against the Giants, because you kind of knew what you were getting. And there wasn't too many shots. Daniel Jones has to take shots down the field, and I think he has the targets to do it. And I love what you said about Theo Johnson, because when you're in 11 or some type of base 12 to 21 personnel where you have 2 to 3 linebackers on the field, now you have that, you know, predicament where there's going to be either a smaller guy on a tight end or a non-athletic guy on a really big guy that understands how to post up, you know what I'm saying, how to put their body in between them and the other defenders. And I look, I'm so like excited at this time of the year, and that kind of cost me last year after that first week. I was like heartbroken. I was like heartbroken after that first loss, you know, but you know, we're all football fans at heart. You know, me and B played, but like we love the game, and I'm just so excited for the potential, and I'm excited to see what Danny Dimes has under his sleeve, because we saw so many glimpses of him being great. 2022, even his rookie year, the first game he's ever played in against Tampa, like we were like, oh man, like he's Eli Manning 2.0 with the run factor. You know what I mean? Like, so he has the potential. I would love to see how he responds, especially early. I think they're going to play the starters this week against Houston. So I'm excited to see him out there and see how he looks coming back, and if they're actually going to use his legs as they did years prior.
I think with Daniel too, I said this before, because he's been working so hard rehabbing his leg, he's in much better shape than he's been in, because he's literally been working since, you know, for all off season. And so he's coming into camp much more determined and much more, I guess, in football shape than some of the other guys. I can't ignore the Drew Lock injury from this past week. The Giants refused to
Was
go
that
out.
diagnosed as a hip? Was that a hip?
Yeah, it was a hip, and
A hip
they
pointer.
still a hip pointer, and they still had him on the practice field on Sunday. But he was doing some light running, but them not going out and exploring the market, they said they are keeping it in house for right now. Tommy DeVito played. Honestly, I felt the offense on Thursday night started picking up steam more when Tommy was in the game. JC, you and I joked around while we were at practice. I said to you, every single time I see Drew on the field, he's running. When he finally connected pass, you looked at me and says, "How many throws is that?" I said, "Right now, he's 1 for 2." You know,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing Drew Lock being comfortable on this field. Again, Tommy and Danny have both been in this offense now for multiple years. Well, Tommy for 2 and Daniel for 3 years. So Drew's struggling with it, and now this injury sets him back a little bit. My question for both of you guys: does this open up the door crack for Tommy to compete for that number 2 spot?
It already happened. It happened last Thursday, bro. Like I watched this kid come in and I've been talking about this a lot during the offseason. Why nobody is giving him credit for what he did? Like, this is not like this league is yes, it's based on potential, and and it has a lot to do with what could you possibly do, but it ultimately is what have you done? And that kid won games last year. It didn't look great the whole time, but we were all in that stadium last year. It was hard, a lot of games. It was rough. He brought light to the state. Man, he had people coming to the games and Tommy Cutlets and everybody was cheering for him. And then when he came in the game last week, they went crazy. And look, the first 7-8 passes, they were beautiful passes.
Pretty good.
He had one pass where it was like a miscommunication with Allen Robinson on the outside, but everything else was like beautiful. The wheel pass was beautiful.
Was
the strike
awesome.
to Jackson, he hit Jackson right in the hands. He dropped the ball. Like he looked poised. That's something we didn't see from him last year, and he still put forth those, I think, pretty heroic performances where he was getting tore up because the Giants couldn't protect no quarterbacks that played for them last year. So I'm looking forward to Tommy DeVito. I got me a Tommy DeVito jersey. He's a Jersey guy. And like I'm just like, finally they had to put some respect on his name because he went out there and performed. So I already think he already got the whole arm in the door. Like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm here to stay. And it's up to Drew Lock, excuse me. And it's a little bit of luck involved, like you said, in terms of the injury. Like, how serious is the injury? How soon can he come back? But it's truly up to him to see if he can go take that from Tommy, because I think it's Tommy's right now as the number 2 quarterback.
See, right now, Tommy DeVito is still competing against a man that he can't see. Like, yeah, he still has to go out. Yeah, he may have the edge on Drew Lock, but let's say something happens to where they think Lock's injury could be longer than what it is. Then you go out and you look for, maybe is a Ryan Tannehill available or somebody else out there to go and get. So DeVito, wow, yeah, he looked, he put a good game together. This next Texans and this Jets game is going to be huge for him in terms of ball placement, mobility, not taking how much of something could be him getting out of the pocket, scrambling and making a throw on the run. He's going to have to put some stuff on tape to really go out and take this job for them to feel like, all right, if something was to happen to Daniel Jones, we can still, I know he won some games last year, but being able to kind of build off that and not and really being a reason that a team is winning games and stuff. So I mean, again, if you got a chance to have Malik Neighbors and all that on the outside, I'm just trying to get the ball to the guys who I know is going to do XYZ. But I mean, it's there, but he at the end of the day, he can't look at it like, oh, I'm the front runner, because he's still competing against a man that he can't see.
And it's funny, on Sunday after Brian Dable addressed Tommy competing for the number 2 job, and here's a little bit of what Brian Dable said. Here's the first part of the quote. "I'd say with Tommy and Drew, all we're going to ask them to go there is play, and as good as they can play and produce. All those decisions will be made in time. So
Coaches talk.
Sounds.
So they tell
Yeah, it's most generic.
Madden default quote.
The most generic
Hey,
answer.
Randy.
Yeah.
I know we rolling, but my boy B London, you know what I'm saying? We got to make sure we got to send them off though. How we going to send them off? You got the trivia? What we doing?
Yeah, we got trivia. Ryan, real quick. Go for it, buddy.
So this week trivia is brought to you by
Wait.
NFL
Time out.
You messed up my read. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought you were asking the trivia you were reading. I'm sorry. Damn, I messed that up.
Bro,
He does.
My bad. Go ahead. Because I was like, hold on, you're doing trivia now? I don't know what's happening. This is new.
This is
listen,
capitalism.
I just gotta go on record
Flag
and
for
be
sure.
London.
All
Be London.
sides.
Brandon knows this from being
Not
the host with JC.
Not on 3rd and 4.
First down, defense still in the field.
JC, see, you're used to being the analyst, not the main guy. So the main guy got to do the read. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you. Let's go, Ryan. My bad.
Except that I'm doing the read, so we're going to see how this goes. So this week's trivia is brought to you by NFLshop.com, powered by Fanatics. Show your love for the Giants and support your boys over here by clicking the link in the show description, placing your order today, whether you need gear for 2024 or want to rep Big Blue all year round like we do. Go ahead and shop Big Blue, NFLshop.com. That got you covered. Head to the description below, click on the link, get all your Giants gear now, and go Big Blue.
All right, so
and you tried to rob him of that moment, man. You tried to rob him of his read.
We'll add it in.
About 6 different voice inflections in there, JC, and you just gonna try to rob my man. He gonna be with his wife later, like fucking JC stepping on my toes. Man.
It was like he got into the groove too, and JC's like, "Wait a minute,
what's happening right now?"
Oh, good, man. Oh, good. We're making it happen around here. It's all good. We roll with punches. That's good.
Brandon, because you were on the field a lot with number 10, we're gonna put the trivia question with Eli this week. Boom. Who was the longest stint of a backup behind Eli Manning?
Doug Peterson. No.
JC's face says it all. Here are your choices.
The hefty lefty, Jared Lorenzen.
Yeah, the Pillsbury throw boy. Awesome.
Okay. We have A, Jesse Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
The
B,
Bachelor. Ooh.
Ah.
Oh, no, keep going. My bad.
Jared Lorenzen is B.
Yeah.
David Carr C or Ryan Nassib. Okay, so A is Jesse Palmer.
Nassib was
B,
around for it.
Jared Lorenzen.
Though.
Yeah, David Carr is C and Ryan Nassib is D. So there you go, boys. That is your trivia question. I told you guys no softball questions this year. I'm going to be on it. Wait till Canty's on. You're going to love that question, too. I already got that one. It's already set.
I'm going to go with D, Ryan Nassib.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not swinging.
Ryan, go for it. What do you got?
I think it's the Pillsbury throw boy. I got to go. Anytime I see Jared Lorenzen's name, I got to go for it.
JC.
I should know this, too, because I played against the Giants before I got to the Giants, too. Like, I should know this. Who was C? Who you said C? I'm definitely stalling. Vet move. I'm hoping Siri picks it up.
Carr was C.
Is it A, Jesse Palmer?
Yeah.
B, Jared Lorenzen? C, David Carr? Or D, Ryan Nassib?
Can we start the game clock, please?
It's a good question. It's
5 yards.
Yeah, I'm leaning to Carr, and it's literally a guess. I'm just kind of throwing it up in the air.
Okay.
So yeah, Carr.
Well, Brandon, I'm sorry because I know you're a guest here, but you do not have the right answer, and I apologize for that. Ryan, you were wrong. JC got it right. David Carr.
Wow, baby.
How about that?
Let's go.
David Carr had 2 stints with the Giants for 2 seasons each, 2008 and 2009, 2011, 2012. Ryan Nassib was here from 2013 to 2016. Jared Lorenzen was 2004 to 2007, and Jesse Palmer was 2001 to 2004.
Oh, wow. Longer than I would have thought.
We got a couple of years. All right.
And so David Carr was the answer, gentlemen.
How about it?
All right.
Big win for JC tonight. Installing work.
That's big time.
So Brandon, we appreciate you coming on. We know you gotta hop off. Thank you so much. I love you, brother. I
appreciate you guys, man.
Appreciate it so much. You have no idea.
See you guys next week at the joint practice.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yes.
I'll be there Wednesday.
We'll be there. All right, B.
See you guys.
Peace. Take it easy, bud.
JC, very proud of you. You went with your gut. I like that. I was very impressed with that, buddy. Good job.
Yeah. I mean, they all were close, though. When you said the years, I'm like, that sounds like they pretty much kind of played all the same amount of time.
Well, yeah. There's 3 guys who played 3 years, and there's the one guy who had 2 years of 2. I'm like, ooh, he just went out.
Right.
And then they have a guy like Alex Tanny who has a practice jersey from every team in the league hanging up in his basement.
Hey, listen, I always said this, man. The backup quarterback might be the best job in the NFL.
But you know what's funny?
It's so good because you have fun all week. You know, you're playing like you're throwing the ball at the defense, and you're trying to not get picked off by like really good defenders like on a daily basis. And then on Sunday, you're just watching, and there is no way you're going to lose your job.
That's right. Especially
you're good
when you're like a Doug Peterson who's sitting behind Brett Favre, who like just never comes out of the game. You know what I mean? He's holding the clipboard. He's making millions of dollars just watching games happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's 2 instances I think of. Again, I'm going to age myself out here. There was an old episode of Happy Days where Ralph Malph was playing basketball, and they go, "Malph, you have to go in." He takes his warm-up suit off. He has his jeans and his T-shirt on. He goes, "I never play." But there was when the Boston Celtics won the championship in 2008. A good buddy of mine, Brian Scalabrine, who played for the Nets and then went over to the Celtics. Scal didn't even dress in the Game 7. They had him go to the podium. He had changed into his uniform. He says, "We just won a championship. I wanted to make sure I got champagne on my uniform." And I'll throw one more at you. Davis Webb, who played back with the Giants back in 2022.
Yeah.
He told the story to Kim Jones and I in the locker room, and Kim can verify it. And I'm sure if we get Davis, he can verify it too. But when he came back to the Giants, because it was COVID and a lot of people not in the building and so on and so forth, he said that he told a story about how he and Eli Manning used to go into the special teams room, and there was a bunch of blackboards there. It's like 4 or 5 blackboards deep, and they used to write all the plays there. And when he got back, he went into that room and he saw that the last blackboard still had all the stuff that he and Eli put on there years later.
What? How is that even possible?
He told that story. He told that to Kim Jones and I. We were both standing right there. When Kim comes on, I'll have her tell the same story. But yeah, he sat there in the locker room and told us that story. Again,
That's
a guy who just a guy. Look, Davis Webb was one of those guys where when he finally got the opportunity to play, he actually produced in that last game against the Eagles.
I loved watching that happen. That happen.
Dude.
Man, he deserved that so much.
Yeah.
He'd been waiting for so long, just waiting to get in there and having success on that last game. Oh, so good. So good.
And now he's a quarterbacks coach out west. So that makes it even better.
Where did he end up? Because I know he was considering going to the Bills. Where did he end up? Davis Webb.
I think the Chargers. Ryan, you want to check that one?
I'll check it.
Check it real quick.
Yeah, because that dude.
You want me to check it now?
Yeah, if you can check it now, please.
Let's see. I got it.
If you can have it for 2 weeks from now, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, right. I can have
the Broncos. He's over with Sean Payton.
Nice.
Okay.
That's a good spot for him too. At this point, they might tell him to play.
Suit him up. Send him in.
Guys, I got to bring up something with Tommy also. We always make always say about creating stars and like a little cult heroes and stuff like that. I really feel that there's a minority of this organization that does not want Tommy in that limelight. There's a little piece of me that feels that. And it's nothing against him.
Yeah, what makes you say that?
So here's what I'm talking about. So last year, JC, you said it before, and there's also something with Daniel I got to bring up too. But we talked about it before. He won games last year. And look, last year was a disaster, and he was the bright spot of the disaster. But as soon as the opportunity for Tyrod Taylor to come back, they pulled him to put Tyrod right back on the field. Mm-hmm. And automatically, it feels like coming into camp, okay, right now he's back in the number 3 spot. We've been saying on this show that he deserved to have this backup spot this year. And bring in Drew. So that's what I'm saying. I feel there's a little minority of this whole plan that doesn't, it's not really like they'd rather have not had Tommy be this little cult hero right now. Because
I don't go ahead, finish.
No, I'm just I know it's not a real popular thing to say, and I think I'm way out there on this, but there's that little piece of me that's not understanding why he's not either getting more opportunities that he's been getting, and why he's not looked at in a higher regard than he is right now.
I think he's playing his way into higher regard, right? Yeah. I mean, I think it was a situation where he was an undrafted rookie free agent. He got thrust into the limelight. He didn't have any idea what he was doing last year, but he managed to come out with some wins because of athleticism, because of the situation that he was in, because he's the got the mutts. He's got it. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, what he's doing now is he's showing the coaches that, hey, I can do this, right? And so one of the decisions the coaches are really going to have to make is about Drew Lock in particular. If he continues, and we are literally one preseason game in here, so a lot of this conversation may be a little premature, but if Drew Lock continues to struggle picking up the playbook, if he continues to struggle with the passes he throws, that interception was brutal, right? If he continues to make mistakes like that and Tommy continues to come in and show poise and show that he's picked up the playbook and things like that, I think he's going to make a very strong case to be the number 2. And then we've got a decision to make about our $5 million backup. You know what I mean?
Third string.
Third string. Yeah. And do you carry 3 at that point? Or do you try and get what you can for them on the trade market? There's any number of different things. We have there's a number, as there always are at this time of year, there's a number of decisions that have to be made in terms of who gets roster spots. And if you don't have to carry 3 quarterbacks, you don't fucking carry 3 quarterbacks. You know what I mean? You've got other players in other positions that really deserve to be in there. So if Tommy shows throughout the course of the remainder of the preseason that he can handle that QB2 spot, then the coaches are going to have a decision to make, because right now he's making that case and he's making it pretty strong.
Yeah, and I don't think anything should be given to anybody. Like, there are certain guys on the roster that have a starting job, and they're like really they either got to get hurt, which happens, in the NFL, or they have to stink up half the season.
Kenny Galladay. Excuse me.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but even him, the first year was his like, yo, we're gonna see, and then he struggled, and they still was like playing him, and then after that, they were just like, nah, because after a certain time, it's like, all right, we see what we have. It ain't really meshing here, But the ability, the opportunity to get a chance to compete is all I ever wanted for Tommy, and I was just so like, why is no one giving him consideration to play the number 2? I don't care if he gets beat out by Drew Lock.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's like, the kid deserves a chance to compete. He doesn't deserve a job, because no one truly deserves a job unless you're contractually obligated to that person. And then still it's like, all right, you got to show me enough. And if it take a while, then you're out of there. But he, giving Drew Lock that amount of, contract is like, you almost didn't give him a chance to compete, and he got in the game a lot earlier than he was supposed to because of an injury. So that opportunity, and this is the thing, he might not be the most, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing from what I've seen from the practice field from last year, also from a little bit of practice field this year, the preseason game and all the games that he played in last year. I think the kid may not be the most cerebral quarterback, but he's a gamer.
Yeah.
He's a gamer. Yeah. He's one of those guys like, all right, look at the coaches around, but like, all right, let's see, let's see what he's going to do. And all of a sudden you're like, this kid's on a roll. You know what I mean? But he has that type of style to him, and it's infatuating. You know, it's captivating. Like we're all, when he got in the game, I was like so excited when he came in the game. You know, and the crowd was too. And you know, we would have had a better turnout at MetLife, but it was definitely pouring all day long. And they were there, but it was like not, you know, as thick as it normally is. And I'm just excited for what this season is going to bring, and who's going to be this year's Tommy DeVito. Who's going to come out of nowhere and do something to win some games for the New York Football Giants. That's what's always the most intriguing thing to me, because it's never like, not to say it's not going to be Neighbors, it's not going to be Daniel Jones, but it's always a surprise. No one would have thought Tommy DeVito would have did anything last year at this time.
And that's what people talk about when they talk about intangibles. That's exactly what they're talking about. You can't measure that shit. You can't. You have to put him out on the field and see what he's going to do. And if he comes up with magical shit, that's the intangibles. I love it.
I like that. And magical shit is a list, top on the intangibles list.
And you know, you mentioned how Tommy was a gamer and you felt the magic when he walked in, but you're looking at him going, how is this working? That reminds me a little bit like Tebow. You looked at him and you said you didn't understand how it was working, but it was working. And you just ride that wave. The other thing with Daniel, which I wanted to bring up before, and I jokingly been saying this to Ryan and JC, I think I jokingly said this to you on how Drew has struggled. But I made the comment that I feel like they signed Drew Lock to solidify Daniel as the starting quarterback. From what I have seen so far, to take the competition away, to make Daniel feel confident, because from what we've seen so far, no matter how well Tommy has played so far, neither one of these guys are on the same level where Daniel is right now. And I honestly felt like, I'm saying it half joking, half serious, I felt like Drew Lock was brought in to help solidify Daniel's spot, because I always felt with Tyrod there. Because remember, 2022, we didn't know what we had in Daniel because they denied the fifth-year option and he was going to go. So we were all taking bets during camp on how many games it was going to take for Tyrod to replace Daniel. Yeah. So I think I say it half jokingly, half serious, but I feel like the threat of someone coming in to replace Daniel before the season starts is now gone. We know it's Daniel's job. It's on Daniel's shoulders to help propel this team, because we know if he stays healthy throughout this whole entire year, it is now on him to figure out whether they're going to opt into that 2-year deal.
And
it's the last 2 years of his contract. It's, you know, they usually say, so go ahead. No, please go.
You're talking. Go ahead, bro. You froze a little bit. That's why.
That's why it's a little bit of a delay.
So I just want to say this though. A lot of quarterbacks, you know, your franchise quarterback, who he is, maybe 2 or 3 years in. We are now in year 6 of the Daniel Jones experiment. Okay. So this really is his last shot. And the Giants set themselves up. So my question is, what is the bar? What is the line that Daniel has to get that contract picked up? Because he can go out there and have a decent season, and the Giants say, you know what? We just decided we're going in a different direction, and send him walking.
I think it cannot be his fault that the Giants struggle this year. I think that's what it comes down to, because all of this stuff is all subjective about what happened last year, what happened the year before, who was the reason for this, who was the reason for that. And the thing is, you know, there's no certain way to say this is exactly why they do that. But the optics are very important. You know, and if Daniel Jones looks like he's struggling, like he's, you know, not performing in, you know, situational football, like last year, the Giants really didn't perform well in situational football, unlike the year prior where they were good in the red zone, top 5 in rushing offense. And, you know, they did things very well. And look, this is the only thing that I see that will hinder Jones from, I wouldn't say starting, because it has, what I'm saying has a lot to do with the outside and not the franchise itself. But if Tommy DeVito plays well in these next 2 preseason games, and I'm talking about, like, you know, exciting plays, because the stat lines don't matter all the time. It's, you know, the visuals and some of the exciting things that happen. He can throw 50%, but if he throws 3 touchdowns and a deep pass to Neighbors, you know what I'm saying, and the Giants get the win, and then all of a sudden Daniel Jones, if he has any type of year like he had last year, where he had 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, like I'm telling you right now, MetLife is going to be cheering for Tommy DeVito to come into the game. And I don't know how long that would be. I don't know if it's the Giants start, 1-5, if they go halfway through the season and all of a sudden, they're 4-6, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know when that will happen, but I'm telling you right now, like, if this kid, Tommy DeVito, which we've seen him kind of go out there and, be like a gunslinger almost, you know what I mean? And kind of just play with reckless abandon. People like to see that type of football, especially when you can win some games. And if Daniel Jones is struggling, and I think he has a little bit of a window and a buffer because he is coming off an injury. So I think you do got to give him possibly 2 months for him to lose, for him to just not be the guy, just not look good. I think he has about a 2-month window because you got to think he might struggle in the first few weeks because he's still getting back. He hasn't played football in so long. Yes, he did the practices against Detroit, but he hasn't been tackled since he got hurt, basically, and he fell down all by himself. That was, you know what I'm saying? That was the last time we seen him on the football field in a real tackling, actually got to protect your life out there in a football field. It's been a long time. So I don't expect him to hit the ground running, but eventually he has to prove that he is the guy here in New York because I don't know how long that leash is after it gets to a certain amount of time.
It's been a 6-year leach. You know what I mean?
Well, but that's not entirely
it's really
fair.
2-year leash with this franchise.
How about that?
We partying?
That's your fucking birthday. Oh,
hey.
There we go. Party time.
By the way, guys, I want you guys to look at. I want you guys to look at the screen for a second. Ready? Ready for it? Boom.
Oh, wow.
When did that happen?
Just now.
Wow.
For what?
Yeah.
Draft pick, 5th, 6th.
In exchange, the Cowboys are reportedly swapping their 6th round pick in the 2026 draft for the Giants' 7th rounder. So
we pick up a 6 and give a 7th? And Jordan Phillips?
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully,
I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm waiting for it to say, and CD Lamb will be part of the trade.
All right.
Oh my
The Giants got to sell one of Mara's kids to get that boy. Oh man.
Oh God. But guys, as we wrap up here, like I said, I'm thoroughly optimistic as far as Jones is concerned. Hopefully, from what I've seen so far, again, it's preseason, and from what we've seen on the practice field, it's practice field. I know he's been up and down. There's a lot of guys who I stand next to on the sideline who overanalyze absolutely everything with it. They're keeping throw count, counts on how many throws he's making to who and who's the target. All of a sudden, for the first 2 days, Darius Slayton is the man out of favor, and then all of a sudden he catches 3 balls there in practice, and he's going to be the number 1 guy over Neighbors. It's the most ridiculous thing that I listen to on the sideline. The simple fact of the matter, boys, once we hit the field against Minnesota is when it counts.
Yep.
But then again, with the new rules, with the limited preseason games and the way the practice rules are, you're not going to really get a good handle on what this team is until about week 4 or 5.
We keep saying that year after year after year. Bill Parcells was absolutely right when you talk about divvying up the season into quarters, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know what you have until week 5, right? Until you have multiple games of full-on playing action under your belt, right? I mean, you'll have flashes. You'll definitely have an idea about areas that have improved, areas that need work, all of that kind of stuff. But if you're talking about what's your season going to look like, most of the time, right? I think we knew what our season was going to look like after week 1 last year, but most of the time, your season, your team, what your team truly is, you find that out in week 4, week 5. But one of the things that I've noticed about the media is that they need something to write about, right? They need
Yeah,
something to really,
facts.
they need that byline. And so at the end of the day, they're going to find something. It's like the analogy that I use is, and please don't hate me, guys. You don't know what my license plate number is, but it's like the police that look to find something wrong with the situation. So they'll pull somebody over and make it happen. You know what I mean? It's going to be that same kind of situation with writers who are looking for something to talk about because that's their livelihood, right? Of course, they're going to do that. But what they often miss is the long-term view of what the team is actually going to be, right? That what happens on the third day of the third week of practice in the preseason doesn't have a fucking thing to do with how the team is actually going to end up at the end of the year.
And I also want to throw this on Sunday. I had the opportunity to sit down with Joel Thomas, the running backs coach for the team, and we discussed the situation in that room and how there's a lot of young players, and Devin Singletary is the man who's the veteran in that room. And he said, and I know we're taking a little bit of a left turn here, but he talked about the leadership that Devin has shown for these young players in that room, and for what it's going to be in this offense. The patience that they're showing for those young backs has been absolutely amazing. And I have the audio. I will post the audio onto our Spotify page. I'm also posting all my camp interviews that I've done so far on our Spotify page, so you can listen to that with Isaiah Hodgins, Dane Belton, Jason Pinnock, as well as Joel Thomas, the running backs coach of the team.
You know what makes me a little nervous, and Brandon alluded to it earlier about kind of how young the secondary is. You got Newman, who I think is going to be a pretty good player, and then you have Belton and Pinnock as well, and I think all of them have really good ball skills. But this is the thing about that safety position, bro. Like of course, the middle linebacker, especially because in this defense. Because back when Xavier McKinney, he would wear the green dot. But in this defense is Bobby Okereke, the middle linebacker with the green dot. Those guys back there, they're not just there to get interceptions and make sure people don't score. There's a lot that goes into that position pre-snap that can be very valuable to a young secondary and a newly gathered defensive team. And they have a lot to do with certain situational items that come up on a consistent basis. And I know this because even like the first time I started in college, we had two safeties, Stellmacher and Rogers, and they both were like fifth-year seniors, right? And then we had a middle linebacker who was a senior, and we had two outside linebackers that were true sophomores playing. And it was myself and DeAndre Levy. We both end up having good careers in the NFL, but we didn't really know nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't understand like splits and like what route concepts truly were, But Stellmacher and Rogers did, and they would like tell us, So it's like, yes, we ended up being pretty good players, but we were young.
Yeah.
And when you have young guys on the defense, young guys in front of you, it's so good to have a guy back there that just be like, hey, JC, watch out for, something. And all of a sudden now I'm aware. Now I'm like, I'm getting to that play a lot faster if he wasn't there. So that's my only thing with the young guys. And I've seen Craig Dahl and Brandon Merriweather go ahead and basically hold Landon Collins' hand for 2 years and watch his play. He played at an all-pro level. And you can't take that type of experience away, even if it's on the sideline.
Yep.
But that's what the Giants really don't have.
Yep.
They don't have a guy that can be wherever, on the sideline or wherever, that knows the defense like the back of their hand, that understands route concepts. And I'm talking about like not like 101 and football route running 202. I'm talking about high
graduate
500 level courses that they say, hey, look at this guy. I've played against this dude for 8 years. I know when he does this, he does. Like, that is another level that I feel like the Giants don't quite have on the back end. And I hope that they can emerge as those type of cerebral type of guys, because it will only make the entire defense that much better.
Yeah. You're banking on athleticism, right? When you've got young guys out there.
And playmaking ability.
Yep,
Big
absolutely.
playmaking
And you don't have that kind of cerebral play that sometimes you need to really put people where they're supposed to be. So yeah, I mean that comes, I guess, with experience. It comes, I guess, with maturity. But unless you put a piece back there, you're not going to have it. So it'll be interesting to see how they react.
Gentlemen, we've got an hour and 5 minutes. We talking ball, baby.
And you done told Brandon that we're going to be on like 30, 35 minutes. And I'm sitting there like, that's a damn lie. That's a damn lie. When we get to talking, man.
We get going.
That's until we get some Mukamura on. Oh, we're only going to be on for like 10, 15 minutes, man.
Yeah, easy.
Okay.
Easy.
Prince could be, well, first of all, Prince could be on and off. For Prince, 10 minutes max with Prince ass. Okay.
And with Brandon Jacobs, we'll go on as long as you want us to, sir.
Yes, sir.
Big dog,
Yes, Mr.
you give us 3 minutes, Mr. Brandon Jacobs, sir.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can I refresh your drink for you, Mr. Jacobs?
Yes. Him and Justin Tuck. I'll do whatever you tell me to, sir.
For sure.
I guess it's going to be a 2-hour show today, Mr. Tuck. It's okay. We'll do it. It's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah, seriously, let's see how much that's going to cost me. With that being said, gentlemen, I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you to Brandon London for coming on. Thank you for NFL Shop, powered by Fanatics. Gentlemen, it was always a pleasure. JC, the 2-time Super Bowl champion, former defensive captain, and Giants legend. Ryan, the Professor Darlington, and myself, Randy Zellea from Back Sports Page. We will see you next week as we inch closer to opening day against Minnesota.
Ever closer.
Be ready. This week it's Houston. Next week it's that the team that shares our building, and then it's Minnesota time. We'll see you guys next week here on the Big Blue Report.